here to talk about North Node in Aquarius. I have already done North Node in Leo. So we know if your North Node is in Aquarius, your South Node is in Leo. So if your North Node is in Aquarius, you have goals that aren't directly related to yourself. You have goals that involve others, group, the collective, community, society, your generation, some shape or form. Now, that doesn't mean you won't shine or have access to your own goals, all right? But what you'll see is that you're drawn to collective goals. Or you might find when you do something that is for the betterment of others, you actually feel good. And it doesn't mean you're sacrificing your life. So again, Aquarius isn't really related to the emotions. It's related to logic. It's kind of more like this very sophistication in logic of, wait, if we did this, then more people would be better off this way or that way. That's why we talk a lot about humanitarianism when we talk about Aquarius. But it's the thought, it's the process, it's we're going to change how this is done because we need to be able to see that everybody has access to clean water, everybody has access to quality of life, or everyone has access to, their own opportunities. Whatever the case may be, North Node and Aquarius care a lot about the outcome, right? If we change this, then this will happen. Now, the thing about it is, when we talk about groups, it can be anything. You could be someone who maybe you're not out there, fighting for a specific cause, but maybe you are doing something when it comes to a group or an organization that you're part of. Maybe you started an organization, maybe you're part of an organization, and that gives you a sense of purpose. So the Aquarius North Node person, you're here to learn your purpose. And it starts with you asking the question, what do you care about in society, people? What types of concepts and ideas do you care about? And from there, that's not enough because all of us care about something. But if you're North Node Aquarius, it's now, what can I change? What needs to be changed? What don't I like about what I care about? I care about this. You could be someone like, I care about women's rights, or I care about immigrant rights, or I care about Black rights, or I care about animals, or I care about, you might be someone that's like, I really believe everyone should have a right to a home. I care about, helping people find housing or something like that. You could be someone who's like, I care about social services. I want all children to be able to find an appropriate home that's going to care for them. So it's like, it comes from you. You know what you care about. For some North Node and Aquarius people, it might be like they really, really value and care about education. And that is the way they make their influence. So that's why it's important when we look at the whole chart, we're going to see what area of your life does impacts your North Node, right? Because not everyone with the North Node and Aquarius is going to care about the same things or necessarily have the same career or whatever the case may be. But we're going to see common trends in their impact on the group, on others, right? It's very different than when we could look at the North Node and Capricorn as their individual success, maybe. But with Aquarius, we're looking at people's impact on others through logic, thought, and through kind of like that, we're going to change it up. We're going to do something maybe drastic. Because it's not that Aquarius is always trying to be a rebel. It's that sometimes Aquarius energy sees that it doesn't work to always follow the straight and narrow. Now, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Now, the thing with that is this. In traditional astrology, and some people still follow traditional astrology, Aquarius was ruled only by Saturn. Even when Uranus was discovered. People who follow traditional astrology still will say that Aquarius is ruled just by Saturn. That's, there's different branches of astrology. There are people who are more modern. There are people who are into tradition. And there are people who are in the, Vedic astrology. We can all learn from each other. In fact, I follow a couple of traditional astrologers who are very, very, very insightful on YouTube. But again, I make sense of it on my own terms and my own experience, and that is why I follow modern westernized astrology. But I'm willing to learn about other ones. It just doesn't mean I'm always going to include it in my own practice at the time. As far as Vedic as well, I follow a few people who do that as well. And, I can learn from anyone. I'm a Sagittarius moon. So I want to hear what everybody has to say, that kind of love of diversity. But my point is that I use Saturn and Uranus as the ruler of Aquarius because that's what modern astrology does. And that is where you get Aquarius being different than Capricorn, veering off in its own direction. So Aquarius and Capricorn energy still can accomplish great things because Saturn is still there. But Uranus is like, wait a minute, I'm not going to wait like you. We're not going to wait here. We're not going to wait and watch this process. We're going to do something different and come up with the same result. So that is where I stand when it comes to Aquarius. That's a whole nother thing. But there's still the same Saturn need to achieve. But Uranus, it influences Aquarius to kind of disrupt things a bit, disrupt the status quo in order to get what they want. And so that's why a lot of times North Node Aquarius people, when it comes to the work they do, whatever that is, doesn't have to mean their career. Some people are involved in causes that have nothing to do with their career. You know, you could be a person who's like a medical coder and that's what you do. But on your off time, you're someone who, you know, cares about sustainable farming, you know, or something with the environment. That's what you do on your off time, and it means a lot to you. So North Node Aquarius people, similar to sometimes like a Venus in Aquarius, maybe even a Mars in Aquarius, there's always going to be something outside of yourself that matters to you, that you feel a collective responsibility, you have a responsibility to. And so, what was I going to say? Yes. So it's saying the whole chart matters, right? Because the whole chart can now help us see what your strength is and what some other areas of your life you might be interested in order to see how that North Node mission might be accomplished. Now, the difference is, and again, you know, I'm looking at my notes that I wrote down, just because I always explain this process because my process is very different. So I don't go consult. So when I'm not doing astrology stuff, I study whatever it is I want to study. If it's Juno, if it's a planet, if I want to learn more knowledge. When I'm doing these types of videos, unless I have to troubleshoot something or I have to double check something, I typically write down as much as I know in order to deliver the information. That way I'm really authentically challenging myself to give the information, not just writing something down from a book or a website. So just to let you know, these are my original notes, but I do, when I'm not doing this work or interpreting a chart or doing a video, I do study. You know, I'll take a break from doing the work and I study just to make sure that I'm constantly building up my knowledge. And people have different interpretations of things, so it's interesting to see the different ways you can look at astrology. But for the most part, the rules are the same. I want people to understand the rules. There are rules to astrology. Astrology is not based off your personal life, right? Like I can't start saying, hey, I'm a Virgo. Here's my experience with this sign. Believe me, it's like I have to use the knowledge of the sign in order to give you information, right? I can talk about my experience, of course. But so your North Node, you aren't necessarily an Aquarius in personality. I want us to be very clear about the North Node path. You know, you know, when you think of Aquarius, sometimes Aquarius is more so has kind of the stereotype of Aquarius or the traditional ideas like, oh, they're very witty, they're sarcastic, very smart. You know, they're very logical. Kind of have a kind of dry humor type of approach. I can think of an Aquarius right now that kind of like, they'll say something and I'm a Virgo, so I get Aquarius humor, like the whole like kind of like, we're not like outlandish with our humor, but we're kind of like witty or like, you know, it requires you to think about what they said. But Aquarius kind of has that way with them. But because of that, they're willing to say things that other people wouldn't say. They say things in a way others wouldn't say it. So that's why it's kind of funny because it's different, it's unique. You know, an Aquarius doesn't rely on certain rules or things like that. And so that's why sometimes even in what they say, they don't rely on kind of this traditional or this kind of like conservative type of talk sometimes. So with Aquarius energy, you're not becoming an Aquarius. I can think of 2 North Node and Aquarius people right now who are very North Node and Aquarius. Like their life's goal is related to their North Node, but they're not Aquarius at all. Okay, so I want us to be careful. Now, if you are an Aquarius with an Aquarius moon or an Aquarius North Node, you might feel that energy more authentically. But what's happening is the North Node of both of these people that I'm thinking of, in particular that I know personally, they are involved in saying what needs to be said in order to change things. So it's like they kind of spark things. Think about it, Aquarius energy sparks. Not like Aries. Aries kind of sparks like action. Sometimes you can see Aries do something that nobody was willing to do, but Aquarius was like, Aries was like, oh, I'm going to try this. And that's why some of them sometimes can be good with business and risk taking, is because Aries doesn't have that fear. But Aquarius spark is more from the mind type of spark. Hey, did we ever think about doing it this way? Or I'm going to say this very heavy thing about how we should treat people in society, and I'm going to call people out. And this is what we need to do to fix it. or a person is Aquarius energy that has kind of influence and power, you can see how they might do something. One person in general I could think of, Oprah. Oprah is an Aquarius Sag moon, I believe. I know I know Aquarius is in there somewhere. We're like, Oprah doesn't wait, Oprah didn't wait to help people out. She's actually helped a lot of people out in various ways over the years, if you look it up. But she didn't wait for society to say what's right to do. She kind of just did it. And again, I might do a whole chart interpretation on Oprah in general, because I like to do chart interpretation of people who are famous. But anyway, my point being that Aquarius cares about what happens next. Aquarius wants to pass it down. Almost like how Capricorn can be really good tradition. Aquarius, it's more about generation. Like it's similar to that kind of Saturn energy where it's like, I want to pay it forward. So Aquarius isn't necessarily mushy gushy, I'm going to hug you up. Again, we have to look at the whole chart, because if somebody has heavy Pisces energy and Cancer or something like that, they might be more of an emotional type of individual. But with an Aquarius North Node, they care about the generation. The way they show that they care is through the way in which they pay it forward, and the ideology and the thought process. And like, I'm going to think about somebody besides myself. I care about what happens to the future, because remember, Uranus is connected to future, innovation, invention. That's why I think I like using Uranus and Saturn to rule Aquarius in the modern approach, because I think it really helps explain Aquarius energy a lot. So they care about the next generation. Aquarius cares about what happens to the kids. They care about things that are places and experiences, but I would say they would care about systems that help establish the future generation. We want them to be prepared. We want them to have something. So that is what we notice a lot with the North Node in Aquarius. Now, again, we have to look at the whole chart to see what it means for you, right? Because a North Node in 7th house person is different than North Node in Aquarius person, where we make first house. North Node in the 1st house person, Aquarius, different than a North Node in 7th house Aquarius person. It's going to be different, right? One might rely more on that person's own actualization of their goals, and it somehow influences society in some way. Because sometimes you can hit your North Node in kind of an indirect way. Like, what if you create something, and what you create helps society, or it helps people? You invent something, and now everyone has this invention in their home, and it helps people. That's another way people can hit their North Node in Aquarius. Whereas if we have a North Node Aquarius in the 3rd house person, maybe this has something to do with you educating. You're an educator. You're a teacher. That's how you pay it forward with the future generation. So if you're a North Node in Aquarius in the 9th house, well, now there's more of a journey there. Are you traveling to go influence groups of people? Or is something you're interested or involved in helps people's form belief systems? You see what I'm saying? So it really depends on the house as well. Lastly, I want to say about the South Node is your South Node would have been in Leo, is in Leo. So now you're shifting your attention from the self and more on what you can do for the collective, the group. So no longer is about, so sometimes with the South Node in Leo, past life reference would have been, it was about you, your talents, your skills. But now it's not about that. You've already done that, right? And the South Node isn't something we ignore, but it's usually something that comes a little bit easier to us. So we're not necessarily dismissing it, but I don't need to tap into my South Node because that's easy. I already know how to do that. So now it's about focusing on your on the collective, the groups, but not just that, but also your own ability to influence. So it's not just Aquarius sitting there. Aquarius energy doesn't sit there. What you do sparks. You bring unique ideas, unique perspective. You're able to look at something and create in a new way, maybe an innovative approach to something that no one else thought about. So your path is connected to who you can influence and how you can kind of spread those ideas in that sense of awareness. All right, so that was it for this video. Please also, I'll link below, also the North Node through the houses video. So North Node through the houses video helps you see how the house correlation can also give you some insight on your North Node placement and what does it mean for you in your life path and what types of energy should you really carry for yourself in order to meet that goal. So thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed and also like this video if it resonated with you.